I'm going to give you two things that I focus on when I'm talking to parents whose children have sleep problems. So, here I'm going to share with you how I choose to focus my conversations with families so I better understand what their concerns are and where I can help them. So, in this video, I'm going to share with you two things: how I form my questions when I'm having conversations with family related to sleep, and what my mindset is and what I'm trying to gain from the family, the information I'm trying to get from them during this conversation. So, we're going to talk about the first thing that I do when I am having those conversations with the families. The first thing would be is how I form my questions. So, in order to make the best use of your time with the family and to get the most information from that family, you don't really want to be asking yes, no questions. Sometimes parents just won't elaborate, or you might miss a detail because they're only giving you a yes, no. So, what I want you to think about and what I do is I use an interview format. So, I use open ended questions that can really start conversations with the family. And while they're talking, I might pick up on some key moments or some key things they're telling me that help me to then generate the next question with them. Now, how do I know what questions I want to ask? And what I do is I start by knowing what I want to learn from the family. So let me give you a few examples of maybe what's an okay question to ask and what could be a better way to format that same question. So instead of asking, do you have a routine? Why don't you ask, tell me about any routine that you have leading up to bedtime? Instead of saying, do you have a specified bedtime, you might ask how you identified your bedtime for your child. If there is any problem behavior at bedtime, instead of just asking that, then you could ask, tell me what bedtime looks like for your child and for your family. All right, so we talked a little bit on how I would ask questions using more of an open-ended interview with a family. But now, how do I know what questions I want to ask? And what I do is I start by knowing what I want to learn from the family. So by knowing what I want to learn from the family, that helps me to focus my questions and have more intent in my conversation with them. So the types of things that I want to know when I'm asking questions or having that initial kind of interview conversation with the family would be this. I would want to know what sleep problems they might be dealing with. So we're thinking of things like latency, high activity levels. Maybe they fight the bed or the sleep space. Maybe the family's struggling with like nighttime wakings. So that would be one question. What routine structure do they have? So I try to get from the family a sense of their consistency and a sense of what routine they might actually have in place. So I ask some good detailed information questions about that. What's your routine look like? How did you develop the routine? Do you do the same thing every night? How often do you run the routine? Things of that nature. Another question I would ask is, where does the child sleep? And is this where you want the child to sleep? So sometimes this is something that parents don't first self-identify because they're really concerned about the problems of sleep, right? But they're not thinking about where the child is actually laying down to go to sleep. So this is something I definitely ask, and I ask them, are they good with where the child is currently sleeping? If it's in a sibling's room, if it's in their room, if it's in their own room, where is it? And are we good with the sleep space? Another thing I would ask would be, um, what goals do they have? So when families are talking about sleep, they're going to have a goal. They're going to have like an end goal in mind. And what is that? I need to understand what the parent is projecting the outcome to be so that I can help them determine if that's a realistic outcome at this particular moment, or is that going to be an outcome that we're going to be able to achieve, but over time. Another question I might ask the parents is, who is involved in the bedtime? Who is the main person? And is there more than one household that the child falls asleep in? So this is a big one because there tends to usually be that one person who takes charge of something. So what does that look like? Is it because of a parenting work schedule? So maybe on, Monday, Wednesday, Fridays, mom is putting the child to bed, but on Tuesday, Thursday, and on the weekends, it might be dad, or maybe a grandma's involved or a babysitter. So who is putting the child to bed? And is the child in multiple households? So do they sleep at the grandparents on the weekend because they visit? Are the parents divorced and we have split houses, and now we have to develop the same routine or some type of routine across two different houses? Is the problem the same across both houses? So I try to get all of that type of information when I'm talking to the families for the first time. So now that you have a bit of an understanding about how I approach the conversation with parents, what is my mindset? What do I ask them? How do I ask them? What information am I looking for? Come back for my next video where we're going to discuss the routine in deeper detail. See you then.